Today, we are talking about one of my favorite subjects of all time when it comes to marketing and advertising, which is saying something, and that is outrage marketing, controversial content marketing. This subject has applications mainly for content creators, but is relevant to anybody that is trying to start a business or advertise in any way, as you will see as you watch this video. So before we begin, two things. Number one is I think that ethically and morally speaking, I'm not trying to put a lens on anything. I think our world is run by outrage marketing and controversy marketing today. And there's a lot of problems with that. I'm not here to discuss those problems, right? I'm here to give you tactical tools to be able to utilize in your own success. And you debate the ethics and morality of that. I don't care. I'm just giving you the tools, okay? I don't think a gun is dangerous except in the hands of somebody that intends to use it. So take that with you as you go forward. The second thing is if we are going to talk about outrage marketing, we need to define it. And I think I've come up with a definition that I'm happy with, and that's that driving controversy through some kind of opinion or content piece. And controversy is conversation or opposed conversation, two people talking about something that they disagree on. So if you understand that, you kind of understand the basis of it. And controversy and outrage marketing is dominating our world today. I think it was really powerful, but it especially took hold during the Donald Trump era in the United States, where that form of just hard take marketing was so powerful enough to win a presidency, right? I think no matter what side you are on with that whole thing, you would have to just look, if you can, and this is why this topic is, see, even talking about the topic of controversial marketing is controversial. It's so great. If you can, step away from whatever your opinion is on that, as hard as that is to do, which is really why outrage marketing already works, right? But we're not even into it yet. You're starting to see some of the principles of it. Step away totally from that, whether you think it was good or bad, and just look at the methodology of the marketing, of how that kind of content was delivered to the USA. It was so precise and powerful. It was amazing. It's so incredible how that works. And that's the basis of outrage marketing. It's to get people to take a stance on something, and it's to do it with the sometimes with the intent to be inflammatory, and sometimes with the intent to spark some kind of like controversy. So there are people in our world, there are leaders in our world, not just Donald Trump, who I think is one of the greatest marketers of all time, just objectively, right? Regardless of what you think of him, there are leaders in our world who are amazing at doing this. So I'm going to give you an example of something that just happened yesterday, which was this tweet. So Netflix shares creator 20% after company reports it's lost subscribers for the first time in more than 10 years. Elon Musk responds on Twitter, "The woke mind virus is making Netflix unwatchable." This is such a great tweet from a pure marketing perspective. Again, no matter what you think about the subject, just keep in mind through this entire video, I'm not putting any positions politically or any kind of commentary on the subject itself. I just don't care about that. I always stay away from that stuff. I don't care. I love marketing for what it is, which is its ability to gain attention. And in that respect, this is so powerful. This is such a good tweet because, oh my God, it takes a very firm position saying that Netflix is basically trash because these shows are moving too much in this like woke direction. And it is such a firm statement that you either agree or disagree with. And that is what drives engagement and just tons of people talking about it, the people retweeting it, right? So outrage marketing and content marketing are enormously powerful. They are the most powerful tools in marketing, but you don't have to be inflammatory. And there is a way to do outrage marketing without being inflammatory. Or at least without targeting things that can hurt you. So I'm going to give you some advice on that. I'm just taking a note real quick once I get into the principles. And I want you to take a look at the videos that are my most popular videos of all time, which I have sorted for you here. So you'll see every single one of these is absolutely a controversial issue, but it's not attacking anybody in particular. So for why you should never become a Twitch affiliate, one of the techniques that I love to do is I love to attack corporations and I love to attack platforms. And I like doing that because I don't have to single out an individual. But individual outrage marketing works incredibly well. Look at someone like Keemstar, for example, or anybody that really like does that kind of drama stuff. Attacking individuals can work fine. I just ethically don't like doing that, so I rather would attack a corporation. And the benefit of that is like at the very worst, only the employees of that corporation hate you. But I find if you're constructive in that criticism, that actually they respect you more. And so I end up working with tons of people at Twitch, despite the fact that I'm grossly negative on the platform. I think anybody would say that I'm probably its harshest critic. I think that's a pretty safe assumption, right? I mean, outside of its major streamers who would give some commentary, but at least as far as industry professionals. So many of my videos focus on that, and all of them are controversial, right? Even topics that are not outrage marketing or controversial are worded in a way that are very direct and either you disagree or agree with. Exactly how to grow a stream from 0 to 100 viewers. So either that is exactly how to do that or it's not, right? It's an either or. You can disagree with it or you can agree with it. But I'm not saying how to grow a Twitch stream. I didn't word it that way deliberately because I want you to, like, this is exactly how to do it, right? But if you look at outside of that video, basically everything else is controversial in some way. So here's a good example of a title that is not inflammatory, but is absolutely a controversy or conversation starting topic. The fastest growing Twitch streamer, right? So if I say that Ludwig is the fastest growing Twitch streamer, at the time of the video's filming, he was objectively, in terms of numbers, but that means that there is no other fastest growing Twitch streamer. So if Usain Bolt says he's the fastest man on earth, which is something he said several times, there can't be another faster man. And that's a very powerful statement to make. It's much faster. It's much better than saying, I won the gold medal X amount of times. Well, sure, anybody can do that. Being the fastest man on earth, that's a different thing. So you know who else said they're the fastest person on earth and got a ton of press for that? Logan Paul, right? Where he did he actually used that to market a marathon or like a race or something for YouTubers to raise money for charity. He said, I'm the fastest person alive. Come out and beat me, I'll give you $100,000. That's a hell of a statement to make. That's a conversation starter, right? You look at all my top videos, and you'll see that every one of these things, and some of them to like a great degree, right? The end of top Twitch streamers. That implies that there is no future. That is the end of them, right? Like streamers, do this or fail in 2020. That video is still getting tons of views. Do this or fail, right? New DMCA tech bans top streamers in 3 seconds. These are very firm statements that you can agree or disagree with. And look, many people will disagree, and we're going to get into the fundamentals, okay? But this is what you want to try to do. You want to try to start conversations. You want people to go to war over these opinions, for or against you. You want to tear people apart.
They're only as good as the world allows them to be. I'll show you. When the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other. See, all
right? You want people to talk about these issues like crazy, and you have to stand fearless in the face of that as they disagree with you. We're going to get to that in a minute. All right? So, back to the notes. After you see this YouTube, most people are never going to grow as content creators, right? And a huge reason why they're not going to grow is because they're afraid of being controversial. It is easy to take the middle path, and it is lukewarm to do so. And they don't, and we as human beings, despite all the negativity you see in the world and everything, we as human beings, the vast majority of human beings, do not like conflict. I don't like conflict particularly, right? I don't want to like really fight people and like get in with people and things like that. I'd rather live a peaceful life, like most people, almost everybody. And I think, except for the people that train themselves out of this, do not like conflict. They naturally like to kind of go with the flow, and they don't want to really upset everybody. And that's great. Most human beings are naturally good. But the thing about understanding controversy, right, is that controversy itself can never kill you or harm you unless two things happen, or one of two things happen. Okay? Number one is you're crazy enough to get deplatformed. And number two is you do it to yourself. So I have a video that's called, I think it's called The Problem with Cancel Culture. I don't know, something. It's the one with Call Me Carson on the front of it. And what I say is that in that video, I'll just summarize it for you so you don't have to go watch it. But like in that video, I bring up a lot of examples of various content creators. Some that have survived cancellation completely, and some that are just basically a shadow of their former self or just completely deplatformed. The difference always is the amount that they lean in to the controversy, because their narcissism, their ego, which is part of what drives every content creator to create content, is ego and narcissism. It can't avoid them diving into that and attacking. It's one of the hardest things to do when you are truly in a situation where you might be canceled, is to just step back and wait. But if you look at the way that Hollywood or serious industry professionals in entertainment handle things like controversy, they do like third-party PR statements, step back for a year, donate to charity, come back if nothing happened. Look at Louis C.K., right? One of the biggest controversies ever, right? Just won a Grammy, right? Because what he did, quite literally, was by the way, he won a Grammy for a comedy album that addresses the jokes about what he did. Okay, what did he actually do for the last 2 years? He pieced out, went and did shows in like Europe and Russia and like different places where he did shows and did content, and he stepped back from the light completely. And I guarantee you, over the next year, right, he'll come back into it. He didn't lean into this or make a ton of public statements or make a ton of media because that will only just get that crowd to eat you, and eventually they'll deplatform you. A good example of this in recent times on Twitch is Destiny, where Destiny took the fight, right? He couldn't help but take that fight. And so what eventually got him was he was on a panel against these people who would never have been convinced of his opinion. They would never. This happened to be on trans issues, right? And these people would never have been moved on his opinion. They just would not do that, and they got him. They eventually the mass reports and everything got him to be banned permanently and indefinitely off of Twitch, right? But if he had stepped back from that and made no statements and just continued on his way, it would have been fine. So eventually, you can either be crazy enough to get deplatformed with really, really controversial takes, and I'm going to explain how to mitigate yourself from that in the actual like key section here. Because if this video doesn't seem tactical yet, it will get tactical. Don't worry. Like I'm going to tell you like how to avoid getting deplatformed. But the second thing is you do it yourself, and this is actually far more common. So when you do something wrong, and we're hardwired as human beings to when the tribe disapproves of us and threatens us with exile, the scariest thing for a human being, you might have heard, public speaking is really scary for human beings, right? Why is that, actually, do we suspect? One of the big reasons we suspect that public speaking is really scary is because in the Neolithic era and onward, the way that cultures were set up was if you had a tribe of people who disapproved you for something, you would have to get up and explain yourself to these 100 to 150 people on average that was comprised of tribe at that time. And if you didn't explain yourself the right way, you would get exiled. And if you exiled in that time, you're dead. So this was a life or death situation to speak. And it's suspected by many anthropologists and many social scientists that the reason why we're scared of public speaking is because of that reality. So in the exact same way, we also don't want to disappoint the tribe. We don't want to disappoint people who we're looking for approval from people, especially people that we view as part of our community. So like in this example, like if you're a gamer, you would want approval from other gamers. And so if you have unleashed a controversial opinion, and now you're surprised by dozens of tweets or top page Reddit threads or things like that, you might get really surprised that they're attacking you. And now you might want to like either defend yourself, which again, like it's the wrong thing to do, right? Or you might want to cancel yourself because you feel in your heart that you've done something wrong, whether you have or you haven't. They'll do everything they can to make you feel like you have. And then they'll eat you, and you'll lose. You'll beat yourself out of a job. I'm not sure if that's the right way to say it. You'll kill yourself out of a job, right? Or sometimes you'll literally do that because the depression gets to you or whatever. But the reality is that no one cares at all about these things. Really, they're passerby comments. Nobody like holds on to it in that way. and I'm going to give you an example of a story. So at the time in esports, when I was running CLG, I would frequently get front page Reddit threads of things that I did that people disagreed with, because you, as a team owner, can make really controversial opinions, really controversial decisions that people have opinions over. So one of those opinions was, I was on a podcast one time and I said, I don't believe in talent. I don't think it exists. And I still don't think that exists. I don't think that talent exists in the sense that there is no such thing as like natural gene-born talent. I think that everything is hard work. So there's caveats to that. Like, there are physical things that can improve a person. Like, if you are 6'5", you're going to be better at basketball. But in the mental world of like things like chess or any kind of other skill or things like that, that doesn't require any kind of physical dexterity or agility or strength. There is no such thing as talent. And that was really controversial opinions that people say, okay, if this guy is selecting players, should he be a person that like is doing that because he believes this? So the reason why I said that was because I'm pretty sure that absolutely nobody listening to this talk was aware of that story or aware that happened. And maybe like the people that have been following me for like years, but even if you've been doing that, you don't care about that story, right? Now, that was a really big thing. Front page Reddit thread, thousands of upvotes, bunch of comments, right? Nobody cares, right? So no matter how controversial it gets, people will eventually forget. And as long as you understand that the media cycle is focused on like these sort of temporary outrages, you can manipulate that to great effect. And I've learned that over the years by just being in front of these things. It's one of those things that where you have to create this controversy and then weather the storm to see it. But after dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of threads on Reddit, after hundreds and hundreds and thousands of posts, after many, many messages to die in a fire or whatever have you, you realize that these are just like puffs in the wind, and that they're not even reflections of you personally. They're just people that are like in a certain state that are like expressing themselves, projecting themselves quite literally on their own suffering and misery. And you can do a funny test where like you can go in, look at the profile of someone that's like physically threatened you or something, and always their profile is inflammatory. 100. It's not like a well-adjusted, like put together person who just suddenly got mad at you. It's like a person who is struggling with like mental issues every single time, like to a fault. I've never had that not happen, right? I used to do this to make myself feel better about negative commentary. I don't want to get this video too off track because this is a video about outrage marketing, but that's just like, you do it to yourself is kind of the point here. Okay, so let's start to like get into some more tactical stuff about like how to actually do this and how to utilize this. So utilizing outrage marketing. Your objective is to get people talking about an issue and to take sides. So it's not to intentionally piss people off necessarily, right? That is one way to do it, but you really want to have a conversation start. And I'll use an example of one of the Twitter threads that I just made as of the time of this recording, right? Which is done decent in engagement. And that's the current model of live streaming is unsustainable. The future of live content is events. This is a topic about the problem with live streaming content right now and how a few creators are ahead of the curve. So I made this thread mainly with the objective of starting a conversation around this issue. And I did that by presenting a problem. So one of the ways that you can utilize outrage marketing is to present a solid stance on a problem. So the solid stance that I took on this problem was, I think events are the future of Twitch because I think long-form marketing is unsustainable. Sorry, when I say long-form marketing, I mean just long streaming hours is I needlessly complicated that phrase. Long streaming hours are unsustainable, and short form has to take over because otherwise people will go insane. And many people disagree with this, right? Notably, the person that I actually highlighted in the thread, Cutie Cinderella herself, disagreed that her event was beneficial. And then went on to talk about that for an hour on stream about how she disagreed with me and thought I was full of shit. Now, that's great for me, right? That's fantastic because that's an audience of 2,000 or 3,000, however many concurrent viewers she had at that time that are hearing about me who otherwise wouldn't have heard about me. So see how I responded to that? The vast majority of people would have said, oh my God, I'm so stressed out. This person said all this stuff about me, was like negative and disagreed with me, all this stuff, right? But the way I looked at it was like, man, that's 3,000, 4,000 people. More than that, actually, because that's just concurrent viewers. So actually, like in terms of live views, probably 15 or 20,000 people that came onto this topic and would not have otherwise done that had I not had a key member of the person. So I'm so glad that she disagreed with me. I think she's wrong, right? And I have a lot of data to support that, but it doesn't matter. The fact is that that happened. Okay, so you want to take a solid stance on a problem, and it should be a stance that people can ideally disagree with, if they choose to. Right? Way too many people are going to walk back their opinions. They're going to walk back the way that they talk about things because they are just want to be too lukewarm. Now, again, this can get you in trouble. It gets me in trouble all the time, but it's fine. The trouble doesn't matter. It even gets me in trouble in my real life, right? Like a lot of the time, I'll tell you a story. One time, I was with a friend in a car, and he's like, "Can I turn here?" And I was like, "Yeah, just do it." And I was so confident that he turned, and we went into a one-way and almost died. Right? And I do that all the time. Like, but my girlfriend, she tells me all the time. She's like, "So it's so annoying to talk to you because you will say something like, yeah, it's like this, and you don't even know," right? Like you're not like 100% positive, sure, but like I'm so confident in the way that I speak that it sounds like that's an absolute. So your objective is to come at an issue with a really solid take. Now I try as hard as I can to be data backed and to have the right information, but I get things wrong. I don't always have the information that I think I have, right? I can't always be right. That's the thing. Okay, so your objective is to get people talking about the issue and to take sides, and is to present a solid stance on the problem. And then you want to choose a medium that makes sense for this and allows you to have this discussion. So Twitter is actually a phenomenal medium for people to disagree on. That's the newsflash if you weren't aware. I think Twitter is probably the best place to start an outrage marketing campaign, but YouTube's great too. Any kind of like evergreen content that exists in this sense, because this form of marketing is so incredibly powerful. Even Twitch is a phenomenal place to do it, and many broadcasters have made their full-time career off of drama, right? And even if you go look like right now at the titles that a lot of the top creators use, and keep in mind, I don't even know what I'm going to see here, but I guarantee I'll be right. Okay, so just some of the top creators. Let's look at Asmongold's title. Asmongold's title is Huge Day, Dragonflight News and Drama. Lost Ark News and Drama, right? XQC. Click here or right? Like click here or it'll come for you, whatever, right? Like drama. So if you look at what the top content creators are doing, they are utilizing this idea, right? That there is always like some kind of like outrage. There's always something to talk about, even if there's not, right? Like it's literally just the WoW announcement for Asmongold. Okay, so every platform works for this. But I think that platforms where people are used to arguing, but people are great, like Twitter, but people argue everywhere. People argue on YouTube and just arguing comments for shouting to the void. They just spend hours on this shit, right? There's Reddit campaigns that are successful doing this kind of stuff. Controversial stuff works everywhere. And again, the most important thing is that it creates that impression on a user that you exist, right? The only way to kill something is to ignore it. Otherwise, it lives forever, literally rent-free in everybody's head. Okay. There are so you could select things or you could do things that surprise people, and surprise is a form of controversial marketing that people might disagree with, right? Things that are memorable. So, one of the best examples of this that I love to use is the Coke ad, or was it Pepsi? Oh God, the ad with Kylie, where I'm sure where she. I have this in my notes, and then my notes disappeared. Here we go. I think it's a Pepsi ad. It was a Pepsi ad. 2017. They Kendall Jenner did this ad. You might remember it. It's like still on Vimeo. And if you remember this was this ad where there was like this riot and all of these like kind of woke people are going. So like she solves like world peace because she gives a Pepsi over. This at the time was like one of the best. I looked at this, and even as like an amateur marketer at the time, I was like, this is like literally one of the absolute best marketing, the marketing campaigns of all time. And it was so controversial. It drove so many people to think about Pepsi when they hadn't before. And maybe initially there's some huge boycott, but if you look at like any of the like EA or Blizzard stuff, all the people that say they're going to boycott after Diablo 2 resurrected, all the people that say they're going to boycott after Warcraft, all the people that say they're going to boycott blah, 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 right? Doesn't matter. Doesn't affect sales whatsoever. Everyone's still buying the same shitty Call of Duty game every November. Doesn't matter, right? We've seen that again and again. So the key is to make impressions. All right. So how do you actually do this? Like so we've talked about the objective is to get people talking about an issue and take sides. But how do you like actually think about something to talk about? Okay. So the first thing is research the most controversial topics around your industry or issue. Oh, a quick note for people that are not content creators. You might be thinking, so far, I don't see how to apply this. The way that you apply this is through ads. So you might all remember things like this.
Hello, Lee.
Right? Like amazingly famous Old Spice. And Old Spice had an incredible marketing campaign forever. Right? Again, the Pepsi type stuff. You can advertise your products in such a way that utilizes these concepts. So things like absolutely the number one product in this field. You can use terminology like that, right? So you hopefully kind of see how this applies across the products and such things. So research the most controversial topics in your area, and then think about how a topic can be put into either or terms. Okay, so if you have a topic that you're going to talk about, think about how it could you kind of like put it on one side and a side that people could disagree with. Take a firm position on something. This is what I believe, and this is what I don't believe. And here's some easy ideas just to kind of get you started on this, right? So, for example, you could attack a platform, service, or large entity, which is not going to turn its head to you and care. You could also react to larger people or do takes on their opinions. So this is a really great technique to use if you're a content creator, because you can do something like, so many people are talking on their streams about something that I did. A bunch of times on Twitter, I've been referenced in the Philip DeFranco show because I will provide a pretty serious take on some kind of event. So reacting and responding to news events with a serious, firm take. I've used this to great success and shown up on a bunch of media because of it. Gotten interviews and all kinds of things from it. So, like, here's my position on this. This is absolutely what I think. And you may think, I've actually heard a couple of criticisms here where some people say, well, okay, that's great that you showed up on Philip DeFranco, but that's just because you have a platform. But you have to understand that I have a platform because I did these things, right? Because everybody starts at 0 followers. And so you're going to gain a platform that so much faster if you are using controversial marketing. And I would say that most people would agree that I didn't do this I never did this in like an inflammatory way. I had some moments like I went after FaZe Clan pretty hard, and I don't regret that. I think they deserve it to this day. And I just think that generally that company is like amazing that it's still above water and that it doesn't go down for just like a plethora of ethical violations and crazy shit that they do. So I've had my fair share of that, but a lot of that kind of stuff early on got me on the map by being controversial, but still I was able to, kind of like stay on the side of like not being inflammatory, especially towards specific people. So I always stay respectful of specific individuals, which I recommend you do. I don't think you should take away from this video that you should go on attack campaigns for individuals. And here's why. Individuals are works in progress. So we tend to think of an individual as like, or you might think of me like Devin Nash as like the total body of like what you know of my work. But in reality, I'm like this evolving person, right? That gets things like wrong and right. So the statement that I make today on something might be something that I think even tomorrow is different. And this is the case with everybody. So when you attack an individual, like you feel like you're attacking a solid object, but you're really attacking an element. And I don't think that's fair. Whereas if you're attacking like a platform or a service or a news, something that happened in the world or something like that, it's a lot better to do because you have the facts of the matter and you can kind of address them and then discuss that. So for example, Twitch's enforcement policy on bans, right, is something that is, I would say, is a way better topic to talk about than the reason Soda Pop'em was banned and if that was bad or not. But both will work, right, if you take a controversial standpoint. But it's easier to take on the Twitch ban problem because it is a problem that we can pull a lot of factual evidence about. And I actually intend to take on that problem soon, because I think that one of the biggest problems for large creators right now is they're just getting banned randomly. And this is like they're literally their bread and butter. This is their platform. It's fucking crazy that a platform owns that kind of that has that kind of power over people. So I would rather attack that service and that problem, or react to a blog post or a YouTube update or a update from Trust and Safety from them, right? Than I would actually to attack individuals. And I would rather I would rather attack things that have a hard time attacking back, not out of cowardice, but out of respect for individuals. Okay, so the other thing I would say is, well, actually, I think we can just move into like keys of this. So like keys of what to know. Okay, so first key and the most important key is authenticity. Take an honest stance. You have to believe and you have to defend what you're saying. You should have data to back up what you're saying, and you should have information that backs up what you're saying. One of the biggest problems that we have in our society today and is that we have a lot of people that are saying things that have absolutely no basis of truth. So I feel like truth has kind of gone off the window. You might feel the same, especially on social platforms where people are just saying things about different controversial topics, and there's absolutely no evidence these things even happened. So with authenticity, you should take an honest stance that you actually truly believe in, but you should also be introspective enough to go back and say, okay, is this true? And then ultimately, when you're confronted with information that proves you wrong, you should take ownership of that, which is one of the hardest things to do. But as long as you are authentic in your belief of something, that conviction will convey to your audience, and your audience will respond. So even if you are wrong, if you're authentic, you will be powerful, right? So famously, Joe Rogan was doing an interview, and someone said, "Why did you come back to Fear Factor?" Joe Rogan says, "It's 100% for the money." And then everybody just laughs, right? That's kind of a crazy thing to say. Like, you know, the sort of textbook media answer would be, well, you know, I'm really excited to do the show. Right? Like I the same thing with the Spotify deal, right? He's like, I just took it for the money. It's FU money, I'm done. People respect that kind of authenticity, right? You inherently respect that kind of honesty. So taking an honest stance is always good. Do not lie. And especially don't ever lie in the face of, like, if you're creating content or you're building a product or you're building a service, this is something I'm really firm on and something I have guarded so hard in like my entire business. Do not ever lie. Do not ever even tell a white lie. Tell things as true as you know it to be with as much data as you can. And then as soon as you have any information that disproves that, you should take ownership of it. And that is so important because as people start to follow your legacy, your authenticity and your conviction will be your main currency. It'll be your currency above everything else. And if people know you to be an authentic and honest person, they'll stand with you even if they think you're wrong on something, because they know that if you realize that, you'll come back and you'll work on it and you'll be better and you'll improve. But if you lie for benefit, you will that'll eventually catch up with you. And I'll tell you a story. So one of the most important things about building this creative agency was the percentages that we take from creators. And I said, we're going to take 20% of deals no matter what. And that's how it's going to work. And then I entered into several instances in the agency world where I didn't have to do that. Basically, when I could kind of get into how this works, but like just for the sake of it, there are ways to like write contracts in a way that nobody would care. And because of the way that agencies control budget, I could have quite literally taken hundreds of thousands of dollars on top of very high percentages, and I would never, ever, ever have been called out on it. Nobody would ever know. Not anybody in this community, not anybody in my extended community. Nobody would know, and nobody would care. Like it's just like literally expected in the agency world. I'm not saying I'm doing anything illegal. I'm saying like I could literally just charge agency fees, right? And I could rack the stuff up. It's all in the contracts, all written down. The way that money changes hands and the expectations in the entertainment industry just means the agencies take a lot of money. And I didn't do it. I just didn't do it because that authenticity and that conviction comes through in everything you say and everything you do. It comes through in every way that you act. It comes through, and there's something, some lizard thing, some subjective thing, some ancient thing where we are able to detect that bullshit in somebody. And as soon as you compromise yourself on that, I promise you're done. You may not be done immediately, but eventually you're done. As a serious practitioner, you're done if you compromise your authenticity. So I'm spending so much time on the authenticity standpoint because I want it to be very clear that if you're going to embark on outrage marketing, which is super powerful, but also really dangerous, not only for you, but your audience, you need to stay authentic and you need to stay honest or you lose everything. Without authenticity, you might be popular and you might be famous, but you will be a shadow of your former self. You will never be happy. If you look at the people that use drama, like people like Keemstar, that use drama and farm, like that's not a happy person. And those people are happy because there is a sort of deep-seated thing where they know that they're not authentic. Do not be those people. You need to rise above that. Okay. So that's the key of what to know. Authenticity, number one. Number two, a straightforward position. So again, I used the example in the beginning of this video. I don't believe in natural talent. Very easy to understand. You might disagree, but that's my that's my stance, right? So very straightforward position, right? I don't believe in natural talent. So as easy as you can, define your axiom there, right? Okay. Next is fearlessness. You're going to get negative feedback. If you are, listen to me, if there's anything you take away from this video, okay? If you are doing something in this world that is worthy of attention, you will get negative feedback. That's it. So prepare for it. Whether you're doing controversial shit or not. If you do not get negative feedback, if you don't get pushback on your ideas, you're fucking boring. Nobody cares about what you're doing. So what my NFT videos that I did have like a 40% like rate. People hate the idea that I stand behind Web3. Even though I'm not even shilling any Web3, I've never told anybody what projects I'm working on, right? Of course I wouldn't, because that's super unethical. So I haven't told anybody a single thing about the projects that I personally am invested in, right? Even though I have an audience and I could increase the value of that, blah, blah, blah. Simultaneously, we've turned down probably, I don't know how many millions of dollars in NFT deals and coin shills that have come through and been on our desk. Right? It's like, again, things that in the agency world, I could easily have done. Nobody would know. There's like our name's not attached to it at all. We do the whole activation, activate it for influencer, peace out, whatever. I don't do it, right? So people are attacking me for my position on NFTs and Web3 to this day. I still get messages all the time. People that are like, blah, blah, blah. I hate this, right? People attacking my position on Web3. Super easy to do right now because NFTs are in shit. Not surprising because 99% of them are worthless. People attack me on it, but I stand in the face of it. I say I still support Web3, still believe in it, absolutely 100%. But I stay to my authenticity. I'm not going to show an NFT. I'm not going to tell you to go buy some coin. I'm also not going to run deals on the back end that do that because that's my authenticity. That's what I said. So that's what I'm going to fucking do, right? There's a great quote in Kingdom of the Heaven. Speak the truth even if it means your death. Be fearless in the face of negative feedback. If you are not doing something that gets negative feedback, if every comment on your video is positive, you fucked up. You should take that as an L. That's not good. So you need to be fearless in the face of this. And then fourth, will this start a conversation? This is so important, right? You should ask yourself this before you produce anything. You should ask yourself this before you design an ad for your product or service. Will this start a conversation, right? So it comes down to even the sentence structure and the web copy that you use, the actual way that you talk about things. Should it start a conversation? This should start a conversation, this video. If I did a thread about this on Twitter, the way that I would orient this is I would say something like, outrage marketing is the most powerful form of marketing. Here's how to use it to your advantage. That might be how I start that, right? Oh man, is that controversial, right? Because implicit in that, even if I say later that that is not my intent, implicit in that is that the power of outrage marketing ought be used, and there's a conversation to be made right there. I could even get way more inflammatory than that, right? Like, you could start it off with the majority of influencers are using outrage. I wouldn't use outrage marketing. I use something more inflammatory than that. So, like, the majority of influencers are growing because of drama. Here's how, and then a thread about that. See, that's a conversation starter. And we can go on and on about that, right? So just thinking about this, right? Because I'm asking myself this question: will this start a conversation? Well, I'll absolutely start a conversation. Now, I could say something like, a different way to word that. So, like, let's look at these two statements, right? Influencers or top influencers are growing from farming drama. a thread about the reality of the influencer meta. That's like a really powerful one. And obviously I like mess with that. I'm just like ad hocing right now, okay? Versus something like this, right? How to use content marketing to your advantage in 5 easy steps. First one is like, this seriously starts a conversation. And second one is like, cool, okay? Like you see this all the time. Maybe, you know, somebody picks it up. But this one is saying the exact same thing, right? It's like the exact same topic. And you can even say how to use outrage marketing. And this just isn't sexy. It's like, it's just not like, it doesn't like jump out at you. But top influencers are growing from farming drama, a thread about the reality of influencer meta. And then you talk about these issues, right? You see the difference? Hopefully by putting this example out there in that way, I show you what I mean by like how powerful rewording something is. And again, this takes all of these tips and it puts them into one sentence. So I'm authentic. I think top influencers are growing from drama. I have a very straightforward position, right? That this is what they're doing. They either are or they're not. And there's going to be tons of people that come in like, no, they're growing from this and this, or no, this streamer has, or this YouTuber is doing it through like legit Mr. Beast. Like, great, right? I love it. Yes, give me more impressions. Fearless, you get that negative feedback. Will it start a conversation? Absolutely, right? So that is how to think about outrage marketing. Overall, just remember that like, whether you choose to utilize this or not, understand it is really important because you'll learn how to wordcraft. And so much of how we communicate is the words that we use and the impression that we leave upon another person, the communication that that person receives as a result of what we say. So regardless of what we say, as long as I convey that certain emotion, that's what I'm going for. That's the principles of outrage marketing. So kind of a primer on outrage marketing. So let me know what you think. And thanks for watching. I hope you got something out of this because that's what these are for. Bye.